night edition of Bengals Army. Welcome to the show. Buddy Chris in town. No Dusty tonight. It's going to be a twosome. What do you say to that, Chris?
Hey man, I'm all about getting on here. It is a little later than we usually like it, Tuesday night. Tuesday night after 9 o'clock, we like to be in bed not long after this, but it's time to talk Bengals. The season started, so we got to get in as much information as we can. This is the time that we love talking Bengals.
That's right. Yeah, we got. I mean, hey, listen, we got to put that late night work in, right? I mean, someone's got to do it. Someone's going to put in the work, right? So we'll get right off the bat, right away. Fresh off the presses, Lael Collins being dropped. A couple 2-minute thoughts on that. Go ahead, Chris.
It's a big surprise to me. I didn't see the news right when it started. I was a little busy tonight, me and my wife having some dinner, but before popping on here, checked out a couple tweets, I'm surprised by it. I thought that him being on the pup, I mean, I know it's an expensive contract to continue to pay if he's not going to get back to you, but I thought having him as a backup for later on in the season could have been very useful for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like I said, it's a lot of money to pay a backup. So if they've got a guy that can come in at a 1/7 the price and do a serviceable job at backup, then that's probably what they were looking at. So
yeah, and a couple quick things I should note. They released him from the pup list. He's a free agent right now. This could be a preparatory chess move, right? They release him. They release themselves from that cap. And then if he doesn't get picked up, they still see value in him and they can pick him back up at a different contract number, give him a 1 year, and then move on. They're freeing up $7 million this year, I read, and then an additional $7 million this year. They can lump it into next year and maybe do a T signing or a T tag. I think this was definitely a preparatory move. I'm not really in favor of it. I thought Lael Collins graded out pretty well last year when he was healthy. And the league consensus on him is that when he's healthy, he's good. I guess silver lining is that Jonah Williams graded out better than any other lineman last week. And I guess we want to take it and move on. But yeah, definitely a shock. And I don't know what they're going to do after this year at that right tackle spot, but we'll see.
Yeah, and one last point before we move on. I think what you said got me thinking, and if it's a preparatory move, maybe they already have something in the works. Because a lot of times the Bengals won't start to move on something until they already have something else coming. So we could see later on this week, maybe next week, maybe there's another guy that they want to extend. Maybe it's T. I mean, that's a lot of money to clear up for no reason. And usually the Bengals, whether they like a contract or not, usually they will honor it. So there hasn't been many times in recent years that they've left the contract early, especially, a year and basically 2 whole years early. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes down to it or if it's just the Bengals catching up to how business is done in the NFL.
Yeah, it could be. And last thought on that, I mean, it could be preparatory for a signing. It could be, go all in on a player and make a Rams type move and push for a Super Bowl. We don't really know. But at this point, that right tackle spot doesn't have the depth that I want to see out of it. So we'll kind of see where we go from there. Another quick thought, the Aaron Rodgers injury. 4 plays in. I saw a lot of players blaming it on turf, but nonetheless, a tough break for a guy that I was looking forward to seeing this year on what I saw, a really talented Jets team. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the turf thing is always going to come into question anytime there's a guy that has a Achilles, LCL, ACL, UCL, MCL, whatever, PCL, all the CLs, but
all the CLs.
It's always going to come into question. So whether that is a factor or not, I don't know. What it looked like to me was he just had a giant guy that came around and kind of the way that the weight was coming around him. Mm-hmm. I saw his leg, plant down on his heel a lot harder and a little more unnaturally than you like to see. And that happened. So whether the turf was a factor or not, I don't know, but that you hate to see it. You hate to see it. Like you said, the Jets had a talented team. They had a talented roster and couple of Buckeyes up there, a couple of Ohio State guys. So with Garrett Wilson, playing with one of the arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You would really like to see what those guys could do, but we'll see what happens from here. I mean, is this it for A-Rod, or you think he makes a comeback from this?
Man, we were just having this conversation with a few friends of mine earlier today. I don't know that he comes back from this. He's due $75 million guaranteed.
He don't care about money at this point.
He doesn't care about money at this point. He doesn't have much to prove. I know in his mind he probably owes something to this Jets fan base that clearly was looking forward to him. That's a really tough injury to come back from, especially, I mean, for any player, right? But for a guy like that being at his age, I don't know, 20-30% chance maybe he comes back for another year. But I hate to see it, and I'm not going to blame it on the turf. Most of the time, I mean, I'm not a coach, but I would coach a guy to take the sack, right? And it seemed like he wanted to plan off that foot and maybe make something happen, then got caught, right there getting hit and couldn't maneuver out of it. He should have taken the sack, but nonetheless, tough break. I'm looking forward to seeing that Jets team, though, man. That defense is nasty. I really liked what I saw. The Bills are no slouch, right? I mean, Matt Milano showed up, Stephon Diggs showed up, and I thought it was a really great game to see. But anyway, I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that, and certainly a tough break for a veteran player. But real quickly, I know it was an ugly game. I know we're not going to talk too much about it. We're looking forward, moving on to the next week. Of course, all of us fans, we're not going to sweat it week one. But quick takeaways from that week one ugly loss that we did not see coming.
I mean, I laid it all out on the last episode. Me and Dusty got down into the weeds of it. I think that the play calling was bad. I think that the creativity on offense was bad. Joe Burrow did not play well. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that you can attribute that to. Oh, he didn't have a bunch of reps with the first team offense. He, didn't have the chemistry that he needed to with Orlando Brown as the new left tackle, Jonah Williams as the swapping sides to go play at right tackle, a couple of the, Charlie Jones and that kind of stuff. And the rain, probably played a factor and this and that. But when you get a 5-year, $275 million deal, you got to overcome those things. And it's hard to overcome your play calling. It's hard to overcome like a boring offensive scheme. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow, I think, just played bad. He missed a couple throws that could have changed the game. He was high a little bit. But yeah, that's if you want to see me get really angry about it, then go check out the last episode, because I was pretty fired up. I have a little more level head tonight. But what did you think, Tony?
Yeah, and I wasn't on that last pod. I look forward to seeing some of the recap of that, but I'm not as irritated as I was a few days ago or a couple of days ago, whatever that was. But I think first and foremost, the play calling sucked. It was very vanilla. It was tailored to a little bit of the rain, right? But at the same time, they were trying to run like seam routes and fade routes, and those are tough throws under any condition. I saw the route matrix of what Jamar Chase was running. I mean, there was hardly anything over the middle. I didn't like to see that at all. I thought the play calling was horrible, and that's got to improve first and foremost. But number two, I think this goes right back to, and I understand the calf injury, right? But this goes right back to the ramp up period during the preseason, right? I think we're finally over it, right? With resting our players in the preseason. Not many teams do that anymore. At least that last game, they're going to play a few series and ramp up. I don't understand why Zach Taylor and this coaching staff is just so defiant in ramping up their starters, because every other team does it. I know it's a calculated risk, but these dudes got to build cohesion. I cannot do another slow start season and then banking on a 10-game run, right? Because in the meat of this season, they've got a lot of stuff. Sorry. They've got a lot of games coming up that it's going to take a lot, right? So they got to get better, man. And that Joe Burrow contract, I don't care what he signed. I don't care if he signed for $500 million. He's got to play better than that. Bar none, weather, blitzes, I don't care what it is. There were several throws over the middle that he had open that are normal routine throws for a Joe Burrow that I did not see happen.
Yeah, I was very confused. Like, so you, at least what I was following, I heard all offseason, oh yeah, they're moving T. Higgins into the slot a lot more, and they're having him come across the middle, and they have Tyler Boyd and Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshivas who can like run over the middle stuff, and you can see some of those concepts where like you're crossing Jamar Chase on a deep cross and all that stuff. I didn't see any of it. Like I think T. Higgins was targeted like 8 times, and
8 times,
like
yep.
like 6 of those times were on a fade route, and like probably 2 of them were like catchable under spectacular circumstances. So it's just it's a tough day when you're running that. I feel like to be a successful play caller in the league, you have to be able to scheme things open. And like, of course, your game plan is not going to be catered to like, oh, we think it's going to rain all day, and that's going to be tough to throw the ball deep and whatever, these long developing routes, and you got to put the ball where it needs to go, whatever. But there's got to be a way for you to get a couple of screens to Jamar. Like, I know one time they gave him a little end around pitch, and like that was great. And that play only got a couple yards, but like you have to draw more of that creative stuff up to be able to catch the defense off balance. If you're doing the same thing, I mean, I'll run the stats off my head here, but 10 of 16 first downs, or 10 of 16 drives started with a run play on first down. 3 of those were a running play at the second first down of a drive. So now you're at 10 of 13. And 2 of those were in the fourth quarter when the game didn't matter. So you're looking at 10 of 11 first downs. You're running the ball. Where is the like
sense of urgency?
Balance? Yeah, where's the balance to the offense? Where's the sense of urgency? And like I thought that the run game could have got going, but like the Browns knew what to expect in every situation.
And that's just it. They're saying how spectacular this Browns defense is, and I give a lot of credit to them. I mean, they did awesome, right? Denzel Ward did a great job of locking up Jamar for the most part, but at the same time, to your point, that lack of creativity, you got to use motions in the NFL too to kind of size up whether or not they're in man or zone. That's a really common thing that a Kyle Shanahan or a Mike McDaniel does all the time. The use of the motion, right, to help the quarterback, right? And I did not like how they were just vanilla and putting themselves in these weird situations where they were behind the sticks. And then to go when you're in plus territory on the 39-yard line in a tight game and you choose to punt the ball with a rookie punter.
I was saying this. If you kick a field goal there and you miss it, I'm still happy because you're aggressive. If you go for it there and you don't get it, I'm still happy because you're aggressive. On the 38-yard line, what is the point in punting and netting 20 yards?
That's punt safe under even the best circumstances.
Well, I mean, honestly, if that's going to be the game plan, why not just throw a deep fade and like throw a 50-50 ball? If it gets picked off, okay, now it's effectively a punt.
That's right. But that's something that I don't see Zach Taylor doing. I still see him making some of these rookie coach mistakes in situations like that where you don't need to be conservative and punt the ball.
Yeah. This has been a common thread for me for Zach Taylor for probably the last 2 or 3 years now. It's like there are times in the season when he wants to be like he wants to pick his spots and he wants to be really aggressive on fourth down and like this and that. But there are also times when he seems like he wants to be ultra conservative. Like this, for me, this is like going into a game of blackjack, right? If you think that you're going to guess when you can hit on 15 and when you can stay on 15, then like your odds will probably be bad. If you do the same thing over and over, then like you know what to expect and you can accept the result because you are playing aggressive or you're playing conservative. Like the fact that there's the indecision, not necessarily indecision, but like inconsistency in decision making there, that's the frustrating part to me because Dusty mentioned on the last pod, he went for it with 10:40 left, and it's 4th and 5 from your own 35-yard line. I'm guessing at the exact numbers, but that should be pretty close.
Yeah, it was
And
close. Yeah.
I fully supported that decision to go for it, but it just makes you think, like, you have Joe Burrow, you have a $275 million quarterback. So, like, if I'm going to leave the game in the hands of a rookie punter, or hopefully when all is said and done, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, like, I know who I'm going to pick. I know who the ship is going to go down with me supporting. Like,
That's right.
It was a weird decision to me, and like, I get it, it's the beginning of the year, whatever, but at the same time, you're early in the game. You can take the chance and like give your defense a shot to come back at it, because that defense played really well.
Well, and we can flip this around for a minute and say, okay, it's early in the season. We can take risks because even if we lose, it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things if we get it together, right?
Yeah.
But you're on the road, you're down, you need points, and you're not going to go for it.
I want to say at that point, it was either, I think it was 3-0. Cleveland was up.
It was 3-0, but they were 0-6 on their first 6 drives. Dude.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It was very confusing to me. That is one of the more frustrating parts of the game, like that single decision. But, I mean, that and running the ball all the way on first down, it's like, I don't know, man.
It's got to get better. And I think silver lining here before we move on, silver lining is it's the first game. And I think every single Bengals fan collectively is going to throw this one in the trash and move on.
Yeah. And one of the things that you said also like really resonates with me when you said guys have to start playing in the preseason. What I tell people all the time, like when I'm talking outside of here, is that like every single one of these players on the field for both teams, even the bench, they're elite level athletes. Every single one of them. The thing that sets you apart is mentally and your chemistry. Like if you know that your chemistry is high, and so, okay, I know where this guy is going to be at this time, and I can like feel that and make an adjustment based on that, whatever the case is, then like that's why offensive lines get better as they play more together. You have to develop that chemistry, and you can't use the excuse of, oh, well, in the preseason we're saving guys, for injury. Injuries are going to happen
for the first 2 games.
Injuries can happen in the joint practices. Injuries can happen in your own practices. It feels like if that's the case, they're sacrificing a game or 2 at the beginning of the year, and like eventually that's going to matter. So, yeah,
it is going to matter. And just to put a cap on this one, I want to see a big change this week. I think we all want to see a big change this week. We're cautiously optimistic in this team still, but it is week 1. We'll throw it in the trash and move on. But man, did you light a fire in the AFC North now. You've got back-to-back division games. You just basically won the Super Bowl for the team up north in Cleveland. And they're going to be talking smack all season. And you do not want to go into week 17 with the playoffs on the line, having to play them at home. Because you know what? They're going to do the same thing they just did. Run the ball effectively, pass rush the crap out of you, and put Joe Burrow in a bind and behind the sticks. Their field position sucked. The Browns did not. And then one of my last thoughts is this rookie punter better get it together. I'm going to give him the rookie nod for a game in the rain. But my goodness, that was atrocious on all aspects. He took forever to get the ball out. He almost had one blocked. He should have had one blocked. He had one that he had to like misdirection because he was about to get it blocked. I don't understand what it is with us getting superstar punters, and then all of a sudden in the game time they just cannot kick the ball. But he gets one pass in my mind, and then we've got to figure it out, because if this guy cannot punt the ball as we saw versus KC late in the season in the AFC Championship game, we gotta have a punter. Gotta.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Robbins, the guy coming in with an awesome mustache, but I didn't think that I wouldn't say it was atrocious from my point of view. He had a couple of good punts. So, like, if you're punting the ball that much, they're not all going to be great. He
I
was
get it.
getting, it felt like he was out there every like 6 minutes for the whole game. And I mean, I
He
know
was.
he had at least 8 punts, and it could have been more than that. So, like, it's tough. It's tough to say, the guy's got to be perfect when he's getting that many opportunities. But I definitely agree with the sentiment that you're getting at. He has to be better in certain situations. The rain might have caused him to kind of drop the one. It was a very low snap, halfway up his shins. So the long snapper's got to get it in a better position, but he's also got to catch that better and get it off better. So there were a couple that took him some time, and fingers crossed that's rookie jitters. But yeah, well, I'll give him like 4 games to figure it out, and
No,
at that point,
I'm giving him 2 games. I'll give him 2 games. I'll give him this week and the next week, and that's it. I need some killers out there, man. This is professional football. If I
that's true.
wanted to
But
give people passes, we can go play Division II FCS football in college. Then I'll
there
give
are
you a pass.
there aren't many punters out there on the free agent market that are killers. That's what I'll say that. So
I need killers out there, man. Anyway, let's talk about this week. Some quick thoughts on this week. It's a big Ravens divisional matchup at home. Seems like we always play them at home now, right? I mean, this is like 3 out of the last 4 games in Paul Brown. Like we're playing them at home again, right? But your thoughts on the game going in? I know you little precursor. There was a lot of talk online from Ravens fans, a lot of talk from that side. Some quick thoughts on that matchup going into this week.
to address the Ravens fans, first off, I think that the organization of the Ravens has been great, like for my lifetime. So I can't talk that much trash about the organization as a whole. I think the fans are garbage. Like I don't want to come off here sounding like one of those guys that's a super homer that like, but from my perspective, I feel like I'm a pretty reasonable guy. Like if I'm having a conversation with an opposing fan online, I'm trying to be like respectful and objective to say like, oh yeah, you guys, your defensive line has gotten the better of us for the majority of my lifetime. Your team as a whole have gotten the better of us for the majority of my lifetime. But you got these dudes out there that are just trolls that are saying like Lamar is the best quarterback in the league and Lamar is a better pure passer than Joe Burrow and whatever. Lamar has his strengths. Lamar is a great quarterback in the league. You know what I mean? He's got paid. He's proven it. He's like been able to overcome the fact that when he was coming into the league, people thought he was only going to be a runner. No, he's been an effective passer. Like Lamar is a great quarterback. I'm not going to take that away from him. But when these Ravens fans start just talking like trash, that's just trash talk with no like, they can't say, oh yeah, here's the stat to back this up or here's whatever. They just like say, oh, this guy sucks or this guy sucks and the Bengals suck. And I'm like, not the last few years. Not the last few years, dog.
Well, and the stat
So,
they'll bring up is Super Bowls, right? If
yeah,
they
and
keep in the argument, this is the argument they'll bring up: Super Bowls. And I get
yeah,
it, right? Like Cincinnati hasn't won one yet, and I know we're all itching for it, and we'll get our time, right? We'll get our time eventually. It'll make it that much sweeter, but that's the argument they make. I don't really care about any of the crap they talk online, man. Like I really don't.
yeah.
It's just noise in my eyes, and
That,
every fan's going to have inherent bias, and we all have our biases too. I think all their athletes are really good, man. They've got some stud
yep.
rookies, a couple tough injuries in week 1 for them. I know Ronnie Stanley is questionable going into this week. I think there's a lot of reasons why Cincinnati should win this game on paper. Going into this game, I think, again, regardless of the crap that the Ravens talk and the garbage that's going to be on the field, because we saw it in the last 2 weeks of the season last year, they're going to be pulling some shoestrings. They're going to be making some late hits. They're going to play chippy. They always do. It's divisional football. I really don't care. I come to expect it. But at this point, all of the issues that we just brought up about week 1, let's start with the play calling, getting more creative. Let's start with getting your playmakers the ball. And Joe Burrow, you need to move around that pocket, man. You need to move around, overcome this offensive line, because I really do think this is a solid unit, regardless of the Jonah Williams garbage that's going on right now. I still think he's pretty decent, and he's decent enough that line as a whole is decent enough to get you a really good look. Because let's not forget, you took a bunch of used cars with 300,000 miles on them to a Super Bowl not 2 years ago. Okay. So I think the whole argument around the offensive line is pretty moot. And we've got a lot of playmakers on this. And I thought the defense, man, they played really well. I want to see a lot of that again this week. They played lockdown football, for my opinion, 3 quarters. And I think they can do it again this week, and they have a good chance to do it.
Yeah, I mean it's hard for them to do it when they have to be out there like so often with so little breaks. Like the offense went 3-and-out 10 times against the Browns. I don't anticipate that happening very often any season with Joe Burrow at the helm, but I don't anticipate it happening this week either. The Ravens have a talented team. They have a well-coached team. They have a good organization. I think that their defense is always going to be like solid. So their coaching, with Harbaugh, it's been good. Like it's been very good. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the league. That does not happen by accident. And the Ravens are always like around it, whether they have a good roster or a not so good roster. So you have to give credit to them there. I think that the Bengals are going to have a little bit easier time with the Ravens defense than they have with the Browns defense. But at the end of the day, I just think as long as the Bengals learn from their mistakes, I think one of their big mistakes on offense was Irv Smith was trash blocking. Like they didn't give any chip help with Irv Smith, and they didn't give any chip help with running backs really.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt him because Jim Schwartz, to his credit, he brought a bunch of pressure. He made it seem like Burrow was under more pressure than he was for most of the game because it was one-on-ones across the offensive line. And yes, Our unit is upgraded, but you can't leave every guy out there on an island. You have to operate as a unit. And if they are going to bring 5, then maybe hold a guy back. Maybe have the running back stay in the block instead of running a route that's useless. Maybe have the tight end stay in the block and get some of these superstars wide receivers open with your scheme.
Yep.
But I think that a couple of things that help us against the Ravens are that their corners, like they're going to be good, but it's not Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome. The Browns have good man coverage guys.
They do.
So, and they have a great pass rush. I don't think it's really that, it's not controversial to say that they have a great pass rush, good corners. The Ravens defense will be good. Won't be quite as good as the Browns, in my opinion. So I think the offense should have a little bit easier time, but you got to prove it because week 1 you came out and laid an egg. Like the Browns were also dealing with the rain, the conditions, and the Bengals have a good defense. So at the end of the day, I think that the Bengals will have an easier time. I know I'm talking in circles here.
No, you're good. You're good.
The Bengals will have an easier time with the Ravens. But this is their chance to come out and right some of the wrongs that week 1 brought us.
They need to, man. They need to, and I think they will. But again, to beat a horse dead for a minute here, fix the mistakes, clean up the blocking, clean up the little things, do what you're best at day in and day out. Get the ball to Jamar, get the ball to T. You guys can win when you guys don't have a full roster. You beat the Chiefs last year with injuries. You beat a lot of good teams last year with injuries. And if there's one thing I know for sure about the NFL is it's relentless whether you win or lose. If you start losing, they're going to still bring it to you every single week, regardless of if you're a crap team or if you're a really good team. These guys are going to bring it to you, right? So they've got to fix it. They've got to get it together, regroup, get it figured out, get some creativity going, and get the juice back because ultimately that's going to carry you through the season. They've got a really tough stretch ahead of them. They've got a couple games here where they need to win, a couple games they can win, and a couple games they should win. But to tie a bow on this thing real quick, I think we'll see a more improved team this year, and that's what I'm hoping for. So looking forward to it, and obviously more to come on the pod later this week. We'll talk probably a little bit more about the game too. Any last thoughts, Mr. Chris, before we head out for the evening on this quick little podcast?
Yeah. So before we wrap up here, I think this will be my last pod for the week. I'm headed out to vacation with my wife and baby, so I'm going to go ahead and give my score prediction now.
Okay,
And
I'll save
then,
mine for later this week with Dusty. Go ahead.
so I think that the Bengals do get back on track. I think it again will be kind of an ugly game, which I hate to say that, but I think that the offense catches some fire in the second half, and I think it might be something like going into half down like 13-7, 10-7, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Bengals defense ends up pulling out a tough victory, and the offense kind of gets rolling later on in the game. When the pressure starts to mount on Joe Burrow, I think he is able to step up, and I think that the defense keeps him in it. I think that the Bengals end up winning the game 21-17.
Okay.
And I think, like I said, I think they might go into halftime down, mount a comeback in the second half. So that's where my prediction will sit.
Good to know. I'll save mine for later this week with the pod with Dusty. Good luck on the vacation this week. Have fun. We'll be thinking about you. I think rumor on the street is Dusty and I might be at the game, so we'll be sure to get Bengals Army out there. So look for us around Paul Brown. Well, I guess I should say Paycor Stadium now. Gosh, I still can't. I still call it Paul Brown Stadium. So
it'll always be Paul Brown to me. I don't care about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Well, good stuff, man. Have fun. Look forward to seeing more of you on the podcast. And, of course, look forward to us on Twitter, Bengals Army 1. I dropped my Twitter handle on there. I probably should have done that earlier, but that's all right. Interact with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, certainly. Critiques on where I'm at, right? I know I'm in a different room tonight. Baby's sleeping, but love to hear the good, bad, or indifferent about the podcast. And what do you guys want to see out of us more? Certainly, you like to hear us ramble all the time, but definitely want to hear your thoughts on what we want to see more of going forward. So appreciate your time, Chris. Sleep good, and we'll talk more.
Hooday.
Peace.